13 flight controllers. Listen up. Give me a go, no go for launch. Booster.
Go.
Retro.
Go.
Vital.
We go fly.
Guidance.
Guidance go.
Procedures.
Go.
Inco.
Go.
FAO.
We are go.
Capcom.
We're go flight.
Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's entertainment.
There we go. It helps if you take the mute button off. Some of those things should have been figured out by now, you would think. Yeah, we got sound now. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to tonight. I can't wait to talk about all these exciting things that we need to talk about, because I evidently don't know nothing about heat pumps, and I am green, so green. So I want to know how everyone's doing out there tonight, so check in with me here, kind of throw me a little something out there in the dog bone area, where you guys are at, what's going on, anything in particular you guys want to talk about, because right now I'm about ready to hit 40,000 views, which is unusual for little old me, on the frozen heat pump. So we're going to go over some of that stuff, and then also the other heat pump. And hell, we might even talk about the gas furnace one that, you know, everybody doesn't like as well, because they have nothing good to say about poor old Carrier, which that heat exchanger's got some issues, and it's been changed, and they've replaced it. And unfortunately, a lot of my jobs require me changing that heat exchanger out because that's the cheapest option. And, you know, would you like to invest a lot of money into a brand new furnace, or would you like to have this one fixed for next to nothing because they give you a labor credit and a heat exchanger for free? So it's kind of a no-brainer for the most part for a lot of people out there. So, you know, I don't know around your areas, but people like to save money. So they tend to do that with some of the heat exchanger and things like that. Laura's not stopping in. She's up there not feeling real great. I don't know. She told me at the last moment she wasn't. But Adam supposedly is going to check in here some point in time here. So I really need to try to make it so the Facebook crap doesn't come and notify me like that. It's so annoying. So I apologize for that. Hopefully we don't have a bunch of that craziness going on. What do I normally lock out heat pumps? Hunter King. Here's what I usually do. Generally, it depends on what I'm working with. The one heat pump video that we're talking about that I got the most feedback on, because it's at almost 40,000 views, is that Westinghouse / Nordyne. And I'll admit, I don't know Nordyne real great. I mean, do you take your Chevy truck to a Ford dealership? Do you take, you know, your Chrysler to the GM guy? I mean, I know them. I know how they work, but I don't know all their little quirks and things like that. And from what I'm hearing on that Nordyne, they do some really back-assward stupid stuff. They're linking things from the inside to the outside, getting the board to decide what the outdoor ambient's doing, to decide whether it sends it back to the inside for the strip heat. None of that was talked about in the panel on the heat pump. And that's not what we sell. We sell quality of product like, you know, Carrier. You know, they've got high-end equipment. They've always been a leader in technology that, you know, the other groups, especially say Nordyne, can't even compete with. I mean, they're in a total different price range bracket. And, you know, that's just not something, you know, you know, we don't deal with that. So generally, most of our customers are repeat customers. We don't have a lot of call-ins. Honestly, we try to take care of the ones that we have. So I don't get near the exposure on the call-ins, which generally are not as good of a customer because they're not loyal. They just call whoever they can get a hold of, whoever's the cheapest, whatever the case. So, you know, you're not going to be as familiar. I have really got to get out of this stupid Facebook crap. It is driving me nuts. I don't know how to do it, unfortunately, because this computer is so deep into the Facebook crap, but it's the gall darn overtime crap. It's everybody's logging in asking to be part of the membership there, and it just is annoying as heck because it's constantly wanting to come in. I'm going to see if I can. I'm afraid if I go into my volume mixer here until Adam comes along, I will kill system sound, and that will get rid of that. Here, we'll just kill the mute button there. So that'll get rid of that for now. So getting back, so I don't get too far off topic here, which is one of the things Laura's good at doing, is keeping me on topic, because I will go off on the rabbit hole. But that was one of the things I wanted to get in, because there's a few things said on both videos, and I kind of, whole reason for coming to the company that I'm at was to get away from residential. So for 6 years, I've not been focused on residential hardly at all. I've been doing refrigeration and, trying to get into the industrial and things like that. So I am falling a little behind. Now, granted, that heat pump board, if it was like, Rheem, Lennox, Carrier, Train, those are the most popular products around my area. And those are the ones I know the best. None of them have some of the weirdo things that particular one did. It's fine if you know what the board does, but that was one of the things that caused me an issue. It had 3 terminals there instead of the traditional 2-pin jump together, which in my other video, which was on the Carrier, I tried shortening those 2 pins together that I'm talking about, and it didn't come out of defrost. That's a trick that Lennox knows. The previous dealer I was at, our primary stuff was Lennox and Carrier both. We were a dual dealer, which pissed Carrier off, but you play them against each other, and that's how you get the best price possible. So we were a premier Lennox dealer. We were also, a higher end Carrier dealer. So we had 3 different branches. We sold Carrier at this one branch. We sold the Lennox majority at this local branch that I worked out of. And we played them against each other. That's smart business. That's how you make more money, by getting them to come down in their prices if they want you to sell their product. So I was in the branch that sold majority of Lennox, and Lennox is what I started out on back in '95 and what I've done majority of the time. Now, granted, I'm falling behind on Lennox now because I haven't worked for that dealer for 6 years. So, a lot of that stuff hasn't changed a lot. I mean, they've added, some improvements over the years to their higher end equipment, but for the most part, they're still, the same old units that they've had forever, and not a whole lot's changed. I mean, some of the higher end ones, like I said, as far as, the true variable capacity furnaces and heat pumps and stuff like that, for the most part, that's the only ones that really change. Otherwise, they're the same technology. It's been around forever. So not a lot's changed there. So like I was saying, I still run some residential calls, and lately I've been doing a lot of it because some of the other guys are tied up on stuff. And so it makes good recording, like I said, it appears to me, this is my thought, that because, good majority of the viewers out there, I think, are doing a lot of residential, that's what they're wanting to watch. Not as many are interested in ice cream, not as many is interested in walk-in coolers and freezers. And things like that. So that's fine. That's great. You're generally wanting to watch what you do, unless you're just curious like me and want to know a little bit about everything. So, since they're watching that, heck yeah, I'm going to throw some more of those out there. And, sometimes I didn't really want to show some of those videos because I feel as though they're like, they're so simple that they're not a good content. But I try to remember that I've got a lot of newer guys watching, and that, they might enjoy them. So I'm just going to throw out the hard and with the easy and put both of them in there and see how the views pan out. So that's kind of where I've been at here recently with some of the residential stuff. So jumping back to your question, what do I lock it out at? When I'm working on a piece of equipment that I am familiarized with and know how it's going to perform, I will, depending on what type of auxiliary heat it's got, if it's electric, I'll run somewhere around 60 minutes to 30. I'm more along the lines of 60 if I feel as though it's a quality piece of equipment, because, I want it to go, don't want it to go into a defrost any more than it needs to. Now, the thing that I think a lot of our southern friends don't realize, up here in the north, it gets cold, yeah, but you're getting heat, even at 0 degrees outside. It's not much, but you're getting heat. And let's pull out the amp meter here. Let's make this brain dead and simple. Put your clamp meter on your compressor or your total load of that heat pump, and you're going to pull somewhere between 6 amps and maybe 10 amps of current. And that thing that's all it's pulling. It's putting out some heat. It's putting out anywhere from 13 to maybe 20 degree temperature rise over what's going in. But your auxiliary heat is going to pull 20 to 22 amps per element. And it's going to have anywhere from, on average, 3 to 4 elements, some more, some less. 2, 4, 6. So you're pulling 60 amps versus, let's just shoot high at 10. So 60 amps versus 10 amps. I can run that heat pump until the doors fall off of it for less money than what the electric strips is. So that's the reason why up here in the north, depending on what you got available, because not everybody has natural gas. As you noticed, you've seen at the beginning of like my other video with the generator, I'm out in the country. I live in the rural area. A lot of our customers are in the rural area. That's why we've got a lot of geothermal and things like that. So, you know, we rely on propane a lot. We do have fuel oil. But, you know, fuel oil around my area is a dying breed. Nobody wants to work on it. It stinks. It requires a fuel filter, a nozzle. You know, you got to find somebody that actually knows what they're doing, that knows how to set up the draft properly, you know, that actually goes in there with a sweeper and cleans it out. Half the guys didn't do that. I mean, it's just, it's hard enough trying to find guys that even want to work, let alone find guys that are diversified that can work on all these different types of equipment. So propane in our area is what's really popular. So propane or all electric, one or the other is generally what is popular in my area. So now if I'm a dual fuel, say we're running a gas furnace and we're running a heat pump with it, I will lock out the heat pump generally somewhere between 35 at the highest. That's, let's say we have an older couple there and they're on blood thinners. People are on blood thinners a lot of times get cold easier. So I'll ask them. I mean, it's not like it's a rude question. Hey, and that's if there's a reason to change it. If they aren't asking you to change things, I don't really suggest changing a lot of things if they're happy with it. That's how you get called back a lot of times. And that's the reason why I didn't change the timer on the Nordyne. Factory default, even there on the display itself, said 30 minutes. I don't know how that Nordyne reacts. I don't know if that thing is even worth a squat. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go switching it to 60 minutes or 90 minutes, not knowing what its characteristics is. I'm trying to get in and get out, but still do them a good job and make sure it runs. So, you know, on that particular piece of equipment there where I'm not familiarized with how well it does, I'm going to keep it at 30, especially with it being all electric. Now, with it being dual fuel, I'm going to set it up to 90 minutes, or Carrier, some of them have up to 120 minutes. Or if you're spending the money and buying the Infinity King Dog stuff, it's going to figure out on its own. It's on demand, but it also does it with its own algorithms and stuff. So to answer the question, I lock out the dual fuel stuff somewhere between 35 and 25, and that's if it's a standard, you know, 13 SEER to 16 SEER heat pump. If we're running one of our Infinity systems with inverter-driven technology where they pretty much keep their full capacity all the way down to almost zero outside, I'm going to run that turkey down there. I mean, why not? I mean, they paid crazy money for it. Might as well get that thing up and running. Because I have my things turned off, I ended up not noticing Adam's down there, dude. Sorry about that. Didn't know you down there. Here, let me go ahead and add you here. Let me put you to there and turn back on my notification stuff here. Where'd my mixer go? Just a second. And there we go. How's it going, man? And I don't have him there. What's going on? For some reason, let me do the Google Chrome, see if that's got something to do with it. How about now?
Audio. Hello, hello.
There you go.
Testing.
You're under Google Chrome. We're going to leave the system sounds off. Maybe that'll keep the HVAC overtime people from ringing my bell in here. I get all those request things and they come popping up on the computer. It's making crazy noises. But you live in Chicago. You've got pretty much the same weather I've got. What do you do on your dual fuel versus all electric or geothermals? Because you pretty much do the exact same work I do.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't really do many like regular split heat pumps at all. Very, very, very little.
So it's mainly just like geothermal or
yeah,
what?
I'll run into geothermal a little bit, but I don't. It's not. Once again, it's not a ton. I think I'm starting to get into it a little bit more, but it's not like something I see every day. You know, the most I would say that I deal with as far as heat pumps go are like mini splits.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I can see that. And those things are made usually to run spatially. I mean, when we sell a mini split, we're usually going with a hyperheat of some sort so that it can pull, the heat out at crazy temperatures outside. Now I got to turn the phone down so it don't do craziness.
Yeah, but like a lot of times, like people, I know like homeowners come to me and want an estimate, and then you give them an estimate and they wonder why it's so high because they're looking online at these little packages. And just because it says heating and cooling, those little like $800 specials that you buy on Amazon or whatever,
The install it yourself ones that I've seen.
The curve on that is like nothing. Like there's no performance heating wise. You know what I mean? You have to actually buy something made to heat down to very cold temperatures.
Now,
If you want to use it in the middle of winter.
in your area, as most of your customers got natural gas, I mean, did you do stuff outside of town, or is most of them in town?
No, I mean, I'm like an hour from Chicago, but
Okay.
majority of people have gas. Like when I was first coming up, I would run into occasionally they would have like oil furnaces, you know, but I haven't seen one of those in like 15 years. So
most of them have natural gas then, or is there a lot of propane?
Nope. I mean, I would have to go like an hour from me to go and hit customers with propane. Virtually.
Okay. So mainly you're in a town that's, you're in town basically where it's available.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like with geothermal, people are not buying geothermal because they're trying to save money. They're buying geothermal because it's supposedly the best that they could do, and it's a nice area to live in. And they're like, I want to be good for the environment, this and that,
Doing their good stewardship type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm in the country area. I mean, in some of even my small towns that I'm in, they don't even have natural gas, which is kind of weird. But otherwise, they're all propane. And then with the employer I'm with, we sold a crap load of geothermal before it was even cool and had all these tax breaks and stuff. So when I came here, I had only done a little bit of geothermal. And I had very little experience with it. I mean, the guy that I asked him, I said, how do we know this thing's even charged right? And this guy had been doing it, from what I thought, for quite a while. And either he didn't want to tell me, or he's like, I don't know, bud. And I'm thinking, that's the whole reason why I like doing these videos, because I don't want to be either the guy that doesn't want to share his information, or you just don't know, so you don't share it. But either way, that's the reason why I do a lot of these videos. And it's just that was a lot of it, because a lot of the things I go over is things that I had questions on and I couldn't get a straight answer on, which is why I like doing these. I guess that, like I told you on the phone and stuff, I had two comments. Basically, the one was I was green because I didn't know that the Carrier furnace or Carrier heat pump was a 2-stage. I don't have their model numbers memorized. I seen the blue wire, which usually on Carrier, on their geothermals, on their Climate Masters and stuff like that. Even I think their current ones that are underneath their name, blue is the terminal they usually use, or the wire color, for their second stage. And I seen that, and I'm just like, and I'm talking out loud. And I think that's what I kind of pointed out on my other one, is so that people understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And from what I'm hearing on the feedback, most people kind of like that, because they're kind of seeing how I came to my conclusion. It's not that I'm guessing or I'm not sure, but I'm letting them hear what I'm thinking. I mean, do you kind of do something similar, or what do you do? I mean, when you're not being recorded, I guess, but.
Yeah, I'm usually not making videos, but yeah, I'm always like thinking. I'm trying to pull up like manuals a lot of times, because there's companies that they're so big and they work on all their own equipment, so they're only working on Train, or they're only working on Carrier, and it's super easy after working on it for a couple of years to memorize everything, right?
Yeah.
It's really not difficult, and like the problems and the anomalies and this and that, you learn them. But when you're working on Train, and then a half hour later you're working on a Carrier, and 2 hours later you're working on a GMC or geothermal or a Wild McLean boiler or whatever, you have to be able to look things up and kind of work on the fly. It's not as easy as, you know what I mean?
And that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm working on ice machines, then I'm working on a walk-in cooler, then I'm working on a generator, then I'm working on a freaking residential heat pump, and then I'm working on some off-brand thing that we don't sell. When I was working on all Linux or even some Carrier, I mean, I could go in and out of a no heat call sometimes in 10 to 15 minutes, because I knew as soon as they told me that it was a fairly newer Linux furnace and it had all kinds of pressure switch problems. And sure enough, or the installers, they had a reputation of not following the manual, and they didn't, vent things correctly, or they would glue things closed. I mean, I had all kinds of installation errors that always would drive up a service call. And so you knew what to look for. Now it's not quite as easy, because you're running into all kinds of different things.
I think with geothermal, though, a lot of it is, even the guys that work on geothermal, I don't think everyone that works on geothermal is very comfortable with geothermal, right?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I mean, there was, I saw somebody on Facebook post yesterday, and he was like, I just moved into this house with geothermal. My bill was this, and my house is this square footage. What is an average cost? And like, you'll get somebody on there that says like, I have a 5,000 square foot house, and I'm paying like $800 a month. And then there's
Wow.
somebody that's saying I have a 2,000 square foot house, and I'm paying $600 a month. And there's somebody that's like I'm paying $60 a month. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, it sounds like some of these systems are not working properly. That they're saying what they're paying per month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that, or you want to know what is your kilowatt hours? You know, how many kilowatt hours are you? What's your degree days? You know, what is the
Right.
you know, where you live at? Because see, I think that's what I'm running into, and it's kind of news to me too. I'm kind of figuring out why I'm getting more views, because I mean, like I said, 40,000 views on a freaking heat pump frozen up, and I thought this was going to be a stupid video that nobody was going to like, and holy crap. But I think what I'm starting to realize is we have heat pumps up here, and you have a crap load of them down south. So your target area is a lot larger than, say, 90 plus furnaces. So to me, a 90 plus furnace is just a no-brainer, whereas down south, it's like, why the hell would I spend an extra couple $100 for a 90%er? For me, it's a safety factor. You know, it's venting out at a lower temperature, the flame's enclosed into a box. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And, you know, to them, it's like, well, you know, I got to run a condensate trap now, or drain now. So it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But you know, it's the areas you live in, and when you're kind of talking to a whole country, I mean, it's a total different area. It just depends on where you live at.
Another thing I was reading about is Texas. There was guys talking about geothermal in Texas. I didn't know. I mean, I guess it's all over the country, but there was people saying that like their loop fields are frozen because they didn't use glycol because it never freezes.
Yeah, I could see that. And they probably didn't size them very big because they don't have to run very long. I don't know. You know, we hire another company to do it. Now, my previous employer, they actually had their own excavating equipment, so they do their own. But we just hire that out, and then we don't have to worry about it. And these guys have been doing it forever, so it gets sized properly and don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I could see that. I didn't even think about that. We run methanol.
I think
methanol.
the most popular is methanol.
Yeah, methanol, which I had to get a special device to measure it. My mind just went blank, but I had to buy it because it's just a very specific range that it'll work in to be able to know what your freeze protection is going to be. But I'm surprised somebody down in the South would have that. It's like, to me, it would seem kind of, maybe it's reverse, whereas it's so hot down there that the cooler water's in the ground, whereas up here, we want the warmer water because we need to try to extract the heat out of it in the wintertime. So I wonder if it's the opposite. See, I don't know. I've never lived down there, so I have no idea.
Well, that's the same thing too, like with everything, different parts of the country. Like certain areas of the country, you're using 400 CFM per ton for cooling. Other areas, you're using 350. Some people are using 325. Some people are using 450.
Yeah.
And like for the, Midwest, it's completely different than Florida.
I mean, for us, the old rule of thumb was 400, but now with Carrier always pushing the limit to get, better heat, stuff like that, they'll shove it down to the 325 mark because they have that comfort heat, as they call it, and they'll run it down, which then you got to watch out for your head pressure because it's going to be higher when you're in heat mode. And so that's why I always push, you can't go off of pressures only. You got to know what your incoming temps are, outgoing temps, things like that. The one video I had, that was the second one. It's only got about 12,000 views, but that ain't bad for a week for me. That one was the ductwork was up in the attic. It was this old gray, nasty flex crap that had deteriorated. And, we usually use either the silverback stuff, which is fairly newer, I think, in the last probably 15 years, or we use the real black plasticky looking stuff. But that stuff was gray. And as soon as I seen it, I knew it wasn't something we would normally use. And the way it was falling apart, it's just kind of like, okay, this is wild. And I did have a heat or a heat loss, I guess, of almost 6 degrees by just covering up one little dinky run that had split open. But I mean, it's just crazy. I think, like I said, it's the biggest thing is I've had a lot of questions and it's hard to address them all. And a lot of those people that watch the video aren't possibly going to tune in here. So hopefully they'll watch this later and come back to it and stuff, because it kind of bothered me because it's like, okay, I'm just kind of working this through and stuff like that, but they prejudge me. It's like, oh, he's green because he didn't know it was a 2-stage, and then something else. And it's like, it bothers me because it's like, okay, I shouldn't care, but I do, because it's like, okay, I don't know. For some reason, I just kind of shouldn't care, but I do. But
it does, like, who cares though? Here's the thing. Like, you could be working on a generator and they wouldn't even know how to get the cover off of a generator. You know what I mean? Or like some of these commercial boilers or something like that. Not everyone knows everything about every item, right?
No.
You have to figure it out.
And that's the thing. It's kind of a detriment to me is I wanted to learn all these things, and it's hard to be great at all of them. So you're only going to be just good or whatever at all of them. So I can see now where it's good to stay specialized in a certain couple things instead of trying to do everything. I thought I could do it all. I can't do it all. I'm doing okay at it, but I can't do everything great. There's just no way to do it. I ain't got enough years to become that great to be able to do it all that good, because you start not doing it, just like my generators. Like tonight, I still got to do 2 more qualification classes before I can take the online class that I'm going to be doing all day tomorrow and Tuesday, which is a total ripoff. It's only good for one flipping year. One flipping year, it's $650 or $700. Plus, I won't be making my regular rate on Monday and Tuesday, so I'm losing money there. I'm getting paid, but not as good because it's a training rate. And, for a 1-year freaking certification, and it's like we don't really do that many warranty calls, but because we sell generators, we got to be able to provide that service to maintain them. And generators, I was doing, my previous employer, we was selling sometimes 3, 4, 5 of them a week, if not more. Sometimes the electricians were going out and putting 2 in a day. And, I got a lot of experience because I was doing them nonstop, and I was, trying to get some new variety of work instead of just doing residential. So I really went full bore into the generators. Here, I'm not doing it. So now I'm kind of like, I don't really want to do it. Problem is we send electricians to school for it, and they don't really want to do it. And the other guys don't want to do it. But since I had the most experience, I'm getting to do it. So, it's just you can't be great at all of it. And that's what sucks is when you start falling behind, and you can see my attitude in the call. It's like, okay, great. It's 15 degrees outside, and now I'm going to go work on this generator that, I'm not going to be able to do it near as quickly as if somebody that did it every day. I'll be able to do it efficiently and all that, but I'm not going to be able to do it as quickly. So, it's just nobody else will do it. So what are you going to do? So it's just what it is. But yeah, we were on a roll there. Yeah. Had one person ask about, Laura texted me, that's who texted me, and she's like, did I see the TPXXL bag, which I use just the XL bag. And yes, I did see that. And it's almost like they kind of seen us mounting our meter bags on the corner sides of it, and now they made a patch for it. ProPack, Vito ProPack, they've been cranking out all kinds of bags and just doing little modifications. I've tried to get a hold of them to see if I can maybe get them to send me something. I've given them 25,000 views on my TP3 or 4 bag, and I think 20-some thousand views on my other bag, and I don't get nothing for that. I paid full price for it. But it'd be nice they'd maybe send me one of them, or at least work some sort of deal out with me to where I can maybe give some of those away or something like that. But hell, I can't even get a freaking call from them. So, yeah, I don't know if there's a reason to buy that bag right now or not, because my bag's still working fine. I've been looking at maybe getting a backpack, but what do you use, Adam? Do you use a regular bag, or what do you use?
I was bouncing back and forth between 2 bags. I had the, what is it? MCT?
Yeah, MC Tall. Yep.
Yeah, and then I have the backpack.
The full size one?
Just gets that's what I use for like installs. But lately I've just been grabbing that for everything. But it's like freaking so heavy to be carrying around all the time,
It kills your back. And I carry a toolbox on my truck. I've got a big ass green toolbox, and that's how I store all my tools. And I notice a lot of these guys that have those big backpacks and stuff don't have a toolbox, or they have a crap load of little individual ones. And I don't like that because things can get lost. They can get stolen easier. At least this way I know when my whole drawer's gone, they took the whole dang box or something. So I would like to get the backpack, but I'm afraid of exactly what you said, because my first Vito bag was the XL, something XL. It was the medium size one, $280 or something like that. Loved it. And then as I started going up and down these ladders more and more, and I started turning and twisting, and as I'm getting older, I noticed something wasn't quite right, and I think it was from the extra weight on my back. And I had my manometers in there, I had my meters in there, I had all this other crap in there. And until it got stolen out of my van, that's how I ended up getting rid of it. Then that's when I went to the MC bag, and then they came out with the tall. Then they came out with the elite MC bag, and it's like they keep all these little itty bitty ones just come out right afterwards. It's just like a new car or something, or a new computer.
There's like a mini backpack now.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
I can't remember the name of it. But
it's an MC something, but it's like a tall MC style. But I was looking at the pockets, and the pockets don't look like they're very well laid out. and it doesn't have that removable thing like Hughes Man did the black backpack, and the black one is the newest version that has removable panels. And so now you can take the panels out and switch it to one that has more big pockets or this kind of pockets, and they're coming out with all kinds of different things. And they're doing that now with a lot of their newer bags now. They're having removable panels. So I mean, we're like women's purses now with all these extra Gucci things that you can switch out to make it exactly what you want, which is kind of cool. So you're not changing the bag out every freaking year or two. So I looked at that one. I thought that would be an awesome one. And that's kind of the one I was looking at possibly getting. I forget what the price was. I think it was somewhere around the 200, 225, something like that range. I don't remember.
They changed your website around. I haven't been on it in a while, but now it's like select the trade that you're in so you can get the correct bag.
Well, they're probably trying to help you out so they don't have to take it back or something is all I can come up with. Yeah. I mean, they all work good. I mean, like I got a brand new MC bag back here and I'm thinking about selling it, but brand new, it's only like $90 or $100. So is it worth getting rid of? I'll probably get maybe $75 out of it if I'm lucky. I shouldn't have put my name on it. Otherwise, it's brand spanking new. They warrantied it and they sent it back. And by that time, I bought the other bag and it's like, why get rid of it? I can maybe use it for my truck or something like that to haul my tools for my truck, like my usual driving truck, like along the side of the road type emergencies. So, hey, Residential Basics, what's up? Thanks, man, on that 90%er. That was kind of a simple one, and it's really common in our areas, the snow getting sucked in. And, like I said, the Linux background, as far as the pipes being too far apart, generally with Linux, they always was about 6 inches center to center to no more than 8, maybe 12. And I heard some people were saying 12, and I should have taken a snapshot of the book, and actually I can download it on the freaking app. But if one works for one, it should work for them all. I mean, and I've always been taught, and I've seen it firsthand, especially with the pulse furnace, which still is the best furnace ever built, even though everybody likes to talk bad about it. That was a really bad furnace about recirculating, and that's where I learned firsthand that air intake will suck that exhaust in when you get down to these single digits, and that thing will frost right over, and it shuts down on it. And that was the thing that, in my mind, I always watch out for. And when they came out with these normal and draft-driven furnaces, like the 90-plus anythings, it constantly just and shoves it way out there, and it doesn't seem to be such an issue. But I was worried about that on that one. And then they put the freaking pipes right behind the condenser, which is like bad. And that's why I'm thinking that equipment, I think, was already there before, and it might have been a one-pipe system. Otherwise, I know our guys would have never done nothing like that. So I have a feeling that things were like that in advance. And that was kind of a hard one. Then the lady throws out there that, well, the pilot keeps going out on it. And I'm like, it don't have a pilot. It has an ignition system. It lights it every time. So I'm thinking, okay, great. I'm going to go changing something here, and I'm going to create an issue that I got to go back on. So then I end up raising the pipes up, which I thought looked kind of eh. And sometimes we would insulate them, but I've noticed if you kind of keep them close, I don't usually have too many problems. It's when you start putting a duct bill way out there and stuff like that is when I start getting freeze ups and stuff like that. But
so
I'm jumping all over.
A lot of guys, I saw a lot of guys talking since the snowstorms and all that, those flush mount kits.
Yeah.
Do you have problems with those? I don't usually have problems with them.
Concentric kit is usually what we use. I know if you're talking like the flush.
You're talking about the pipe in a pipe, right?
Yeah, that's for us. That's concentric. That's what I have in my own house. It's one hole, one kill. Same thing for going through a roof, one hole through the ceiling or the roof. In my area, basements are prevalent. So, if you're on average, you're either going to have it in a basement or use a counterflow on a single story house. It may go with the ductwork into the crawl. We have some that are in the attic. We have some that are in the crawl space, but most of ours are basements and in the house area. It's the ratty ones that usually have it in the crawl space, or they have a boiler and then they have the air handler in the attic. So for us, it's not as common as what it is for the southern people, because it sounds like down there it's almost all the time in the attic or something like that, which is kind of interesting. And then they use package units. See, around my area, that's never used a package unit. We might use it on a nursing home or something and then duck it up into the attic, but we'll put the unit on the ground and then duck it up into it that way. So, I mean, it's just like there's so many differences from one area to the other. And it's like, I don't think people realize that where you live at plays a considerable factor in what you choose to use in the house and how it's installed and where it's installed.
Well, I did have one instance actually last weekend. This is the last day I worked before my back went out, and it was at the house after, I don't know, where my back went out. I bumped my head in it was like a low ceiling in the basement, and it was like, oh.
Was that the picture I seen with blood all over it?
Huh? No, that wasn't me.
Okay, I seen somebody, but I didn't think you were bald. It was a guy who was bald or whatever. I seen blood all over his head.
I was working on a Wild McLean. Trying to remember the model of the boiler. It's the high efficiency boiler that has the pump inside of it, and it has like that little cylinder next to it on the left hand side.
I mean, you've got the Evergreen and you got the Ultra. Is it either one of those?
No, this is like it's like a regular. It's not a compact boiler. It's not like a.
Is it high efficiency?
Yep, I can't remember I don't know. I don't work on them that often. But anyway, it was going off on pressure switch. So I went outside, and the flush mount kit, the Wild McLean black flush mount kit, the cover of it was off, and it was missing. So you have the two pipes, like, 4 inches on center apart from each other, intake and exhaust right next to each other. So the intake was completely frozen over.
I know Train does something similar like that, which is really, and Lennox did a little bit something like that. It's so hard. I don't know how them guys line that thing up, because it's like you got to drill it and then kind of hope it boom hits right in the money.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it, but the thing is, if you lose that piece, that's what's directing the airflow. You'll have the exhaust that shoots right out the front, and then all the intake draws from the back. But if you lose the front piece on it, it's just going to recycle the.
I can see that, yeah. Train had something just like that. That's where I seen it the most. And, I don't work on very much Train stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I like their commercial stuff better than some of the residential, but even some of the residential stuff now, the high-tech stuff, I mean, I've been working on, it's like they've really caught up to where Carrier's at on their communications stuff. And they freaking, do you do much Train stuff? Because I see we got Anti in here, old. Yeah,
I used to. I haven't recently. But I've done modulating furnace. I've done the 20 SEER inverters, the whole,
Yeah, where they charge themselves and you can hook up a scale and the thing will shut itself off. And it's like, what the heck? Are you serious? This is crazy.
They actually don't make that anymore.
Don't they? This one, once again, it was going to a new customer's house. And I think her son worked for a company and he was one of them people that kind of got in the field for a little bit. And he put the best in for his mom or grandmother or whatever it was. And then now he's out of the field or moved away or whatever. So now she called us. So it's like, okay, now I got to get familiarized with this thing. And, a normal heat pump or no big deal. But all right. Excellent trigger control, Tim. Thank you, sir. He threw some money out there.
Did you look at the manual? Did you learn? Like, that's a pretty cool piece of.
Yeah, I did. It's kind of subscriber sweetness. Yeah, it's kind of confusing because you had like 3 pins there and you had to jump 1 or 2 to the other. And I'm not much for reading. When I'm like in a hurry and trying to get things figured out, I have an issue. Everybody's subscribing. Oh yeah, you get a subscriber. You get a subscriber. I'm horrible when I'm under pressure to try to read. My mind is like, all right. Peter subscribes, more subscribers. But yeah, I have such a hard time, and that's what I had with the. I think they want to just interrupt us, so they're going to keep subscribing and unsubscribing. But yeah. But yeah, I read some of it, but that's the only one I've worked on. I haven't worked on one since. So I mean, it's kind of that's what sucks is I may not see one again for who knows how long. Continue on.
I put one of those in my mom's house. The 2 compressor job.
I thought it only had 1 compressor. Wasn't it just 2 stage?
This one. I don't know if it was older then. It was an 18 SEER 2 stage with 2 compressor. That thing was a beast.
Big honker, big old tall thing.
Oh, and I just remember like by the time we got it off the truck, the pallet was like gone, broken in pieces because it was so heavy. And it was very difficult to get it to the backyard and then to get it up on those legs.
Yeah. Yeah, this one here wasn't too bad. It was dual fuel. She had a 90 plus something furnace, and I was really surprised because they were using a Honeywell 6000, looked like a 6000 or 8000 stat, but it wasn't really an 8000. It was a communicating thermostat in an 8000's body. And I've never worked on that stat before. And I love the 8,000. Unfortunately, I think they've kind of gotten rid of it, or they've downgraded or whatever. Now they got the 9,000. But I'm like, all I had was the manual for the 8,000. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, I know how to hold these 2 buttons to make it go in there. And I'm like, okay, these numbers ain't jiving. So great. But eventually I got it all figured out. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just tell the customer, look, I'm not familiarized with it, but I will be before we leave. And I just tell them up front, hey, I'm going to, here's what I'm doing. That way they can either say, hey, get the hell out of here, or, okay, cool, just get it running. And generally it's always just get it running. I'm pretty honest with the customer and let them know things, and I communicate with them constantly if there's anything going on and things like that. That's how I deal with it. But yeah, I am all over the subjects today. But yeah. So your back's acting up and stuff. Did you haul around something too heavy, or what did you end up doing?
I don't know. It just started bothering me every day. It got worse, and Saturday was like the end of it. I didn't work all last week.
Ooh.
Yesterday was the first day I worked. The only reason why I'm sitting here right now is because I have these electrodes.
Oh, jeez.
Tied to my back. I'm electrocuting my back right now.
Laura's got one similar to that. It looks like a little Walkman. It's even smaller than that. So, it was at one of the gun shows, one of the people there doing a booth thing, and I'm surprised, man. You can crank that thing up and start jumping if you want. That's some crazy stuff.
Well, now there's like this big trend on the internet where people have competitions. They
drinking games,
and they'll turn them all the way up and try to drink a beer.
Yeah, I was wondering what they were doing, because I'm like, that sure looks like those shocking patches. And the guy said, and he's dropping it all over the place and going nuts and stuff. And I'm like, I think that's what they're doing. They were older guys too. That was what was funny. I mean, They were even older than me. So it's like, what the heck? And so it's like they're bringing back their teenage days, only with, electroshock therapy there to do it, which is kind of funny. So, well, you and freaking Chris, man, both getting hurt, and you're both younger than me. That's pretty bad.
I know. I need to start like stretching and trying to exercise and do the right thing, instead of doing nothing.
I feel a little down, though. I don't know if they say it's maybe for after the COVID thing, which I think it's just the weather and everything in general kind of sucks. So it's kind of like, eh. But I'm pretty excited tonight, though, as you can tell. So bouncing off the channel. So God only knows how many other people on here. Laura, since she's up there kind of watching or whatever, she could like text me anything I might have missed. I'm like barely paying attention to the chat, so I'm sorry about that, guys. I haven't seen much in there.
Everyone's missing her.
I know they are. The only reason why they come here is because of her, and I told her that, and she didn't. I couldn't persuade her. I don't know what the deal was, but I don't know. Let me see here. Make sure I didn't Fido fanny pack craziness. Make sure. Oh, that's the reason why that one got zapped. Okay, cool. Yeah, 100 King, 12 inches from the ground. That's generally, I think, the consensus. I mean, they don't print a different manual for one area than the other. And that one there, as you've seen on that video, that was a really high. And whenever you got something in front of it, like that condenser, I mean, my opinion, never bring your exhaust stacks out in front or behind your freaking condenser. That's just going to cause a wind tunnel, and shit's going to pile up, and it's going to get piled underneath there. So, and then one guy, he's talking about, said I was picking all over. I was being a pecker, pecking here, pecking there, and it takes more time. And like I told him, every freaking furnace job, air conditioner I do, I'm cleaning the condensate trap. I'm cleaning the flame sensor. I'm checking the heat exchanger. I'm making sure the filter's clean, making sure the blower's clean, making sure the blower wheel's clean. Those are just my bare minimums I do on every single one of them, because it's not worth 5 minutes to get out the door so I can get called back later. And the time it takes to drive there and stuff, every one of them gets serviced. I mean, I just make sure that I'm not going to, as best I can, not going to have a call later. And that was the other thing I got questioned on. And it's like, this is how I do it. I just go through everything, and you find so much crap by just going through and double checking everything. I'll admit, when I first started, I used to do temperature-rise on everything. Then I kind of got, once you start seeing it wasn't a big deal, you start skipping that stuff, and you start then going into things that you noticed were more important later. And, now I'm kind of getting back into it, and it's like, oh crap. we're 10 degrees from the maximum. So by the time this filter starts to get dirty, I probably should maybe speed that up, make sure all the ducts are open. Now I'm starting to check static pressure more often, things like that, which, you know, I had a Carrier true variable. And see, once again, I don't remember the freaking model number, but it's the one with a true modulating gas valve. And here the low fire, which is like set for 0.55 inches of water column, and the maximum, which is usually 3.5, it wasn't quite right. But he was having intermittent tripping. And when I went into the history and the thermostat, which it would sit there and tell you, hey, you know, it had 255 times it tripped. It's like, wait a minute. So when I checked it on high fire, I didn't have it. And I'm like, well, this don't make sense. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute here. It's going to modulate in the middle. It has that baseline. It's normally at 0.55. I better check that. And sure as crap, it was 1 inch. Half an inch, which is nearly double of what it is on low, was what was causing it to trip. So yeah, Sir Galahad, I am on a rant. This is me, the excited me. This is how I usually am when I'm excited about stuff. That's why it's so different how I am at work versus I am here. So,
which I think like different in my experience in the past, I'll give you like 3 different examples as far as gas pressure goes. And I don't think a lot of people do check gas pressure, new like installs. You know what I mean? Bigger companies than that, where it's like a production thing. I don't think they do.
I do.
Just from I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying like I think that they're pushed to get things done quickly, and I don't like running service calls on newer jobs that we didn't install. I don't know if a lot of companies do it, at least around here. But anyway, my point is like I remember I would check gas pressure every train install back, like, you know, from 15 years ago up until 5 years ago. And I don't remember what it was like around 5 years ago, but I can tell you it was like slightly off, just like a pinch off. Always. It wasn't bad whatsoever.
Always
now
higher.
On and now on Amana furnaces, they are grossly overfired. Like crazy overfired. Like low stage for a 2-stage furnace is like 2.3 inches where it's running at. And then high stage is like 3.8, 3.9.
And that's what I'm seeing on the Carrier too. Same thing, and they have a range, 3.2 to as high as 3.7, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm old school 3.5. I mean, that was what it always was. I used to always set it at it, but then, you know, as time goes on, you learn more things. It's like, okay, I've done everything I can do. I've speeded the fan up as much as I can. Now what do? I got to adjust gas pressure within reason. And then that's when you start tweaking it a little bit. So
the thing is, very rarely do I ever want to overfire a furnace. Maybe if you're tuning something with combustion, right?
Sure.
That's the only time I'll play with it, because most of the time the systems I run into, ductwork is undersized. The furnace is always running hot. So why would you want to go over 3.5? You know what I mean? If anything, if there's a range underneath it, I would try to stick to the lower end of it if possible. You know?
And more times than not, I'm usually 3.5, or I'll go as low as like that 3.2-ish, because I've noticed if you go too low, then you're not sending enough heat into the heat exchanger. Now you're possibly condensing more. You know, your draft motor's still running at full bore speed, so now you're losing heat, things like that. I mean, I don't know. It's just, same thing here. I don't overfire them ever. I'm usually up to the max. And honestly, I will usually take them to the 3.5 or even just a touch below, because it's always easier to have that headroom for when the filter gets dirty or they close the freaking registers or whatever else is they're doing, you know?
The thing is, I never go above what there is a range, but there's also, they say like, it's always been 1.6, 3.5. It's always been, that was like the bullseye to hit, right? But there's a range. But I'm telling you, like, how often do you see a furnace not heating the house because it's not pumping enough gas into it, right? If anything, it's like shutting off on limit. So I'm not going to run it above 3.5. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. Bo Hanger, he was asking about refrigerant. Dude, if I'm working in something that's really freaking cold outside and I got to charge a unit up or something, I'll just put that tank up in the front of the seat, down on the floor, put on the floor heater and let the truck run. I mean, you know, hopefully your company don't complain if you're out freezing your end off and you need to charge the unit and they can't understand that. I'll either throw it in the truck and crank the heat up and bring the tank pressure up to that high. Because if you go with one of those tank heaters, them things are stupid expensive. Them things are like $250 or something like that. So, sorry about that.
How often are you breaking a combustion analyzer?
Never, hardly ever. I mean, technically, whenever you change a heat exchanger, you're supposed to do it for carrier's satisfaction. Now, if I'm doing a high efficiency, say a Navion water heater, especially even whether it's natural or propane, definitely any type of propane conversion, like where it's a high efficiency boiler or high efficiency water heater, I'm using it then definitely. But for just run of the mill, gas furnace checks and shit, no, we're not pulling that out for that. I mean, we charge for certain tools, so the analyzer might be $20, $30 to use it, which we never used to do that where I was at before, but it's just common good business sense because you got to pay to freaking maintain the thing. You got to get recoup your money back. And, we don't do it that often. So no, it's not that often, hardly ever. And I don't really think, honestly, you're going to gain that much. Yeah. I like for oil furnaces, for example, those are the ones where you had the most flexibility of changing things, the air adjustment, things like that. You could adjust the nozzle size. I would tweak with those and stuff, and I would do it by eye, and from the way I was taught long ago, and then do it by the analyzer, and I would check it before and after, and usually I was dead nuts on with freaking by eye than what the analyzer did by just tweaking it. Now, granted, you get a little bitty bit better, but I don't know, not very often. No, because I get that question quite often too. Not very often. So, yeah, never needed analyzers, Sean says.
I've used it. And where it also comes in handy is, which I kind of wish I would use it on all my maintenance calls. There's never enough hours in a day. If I broke it out on every call, I mean, that would add a lot to my day, If I suspect a reason to use it, I would use it. But when you have a furnace, like a condensing furnace that has a bad heat exchanger, and you just walk in the house, you're walking past the vent pipe on the side of the house and you smell it. You walk in the house and it's off on rollout switch, and then, you feel the top of the furnace, it's all hot. You have a bad heat exchanger. I'm sorry. Yeah. Especially if it's a carrier, you have a bad heat exchanger. They're like, well, how do you know? Okay, well, let me go get my analyzer. I'll pop it in here. Okay, there you go. You have a bad heat exchanger, Yeah,
and over the years, I mean, visual is king, I feel. I mean, you can look at the sign, especially if it's something you work on every day. What that collector box or what your, up by your burner section is. I mean, when you're doing for like the new guys out there, when you're doing these boring ESA, energy savings agreements, planned service, whatever the hell you want to call it, start checking temperatures in different locations. Start feeling your burner box. Find out where can I put my hand at until it starts getting, I don't want to do that no more. So when you go back on a no heat call, you'll know that, hey, that's freaking hotter than hell. It shouldn't be like that. You're going to know. These are the things how I got good. I didn't get to go run no heat calls for almost 2 years. I got stuck on planned service crap forever. I hated it. I begged and begged to be on call. I begged to run no heat calls. They wouldn't let me. I was the first generation coming out of our local school, so they slowly wrote us with guys and shit like that, where normally we don't do that. Normally it's just, throw them out in the truck after making sure they're not going to kill somebody, and off they go, and they learn on their own. So I got a lot of extra training with some of the guys. I learned a little bit from each one of them. And, once again, that's why I like sharing what I've shared. And most of the things I'm pointing out is stuff I've screwed up on, and that's the reason why I'm pointing it out. So... But yeah, I'm always about visually inspecting it. Granted, most of your problems don't usually happen in the primary, which is where you usually can see it at. It usually happens either in the secondary or down further. But there's other tricks to find things. And, the cracked heat exchanger, I mean, not a bad idea to have the CO detector. But, I was around when they first came out with affordable CO detectors. Holy crap, all the false alarms we had. The first alerts and all that crap. I mean, we used to get on night service calls. My detector's gone off. I'm afraid I'm going to die. I had the fire department out here, and I got 50 parts per million, what was it? I have 5 parts per million. I'm like, oh God, really? So yeah, but yeah, it's not that often.
Some carbon monoxide detectors, because you see a lot of guys doing this. They'll stick it in a register, right?
How diluted is that going to be?
You're not supposed to stick in heat. It has an effect to the heat or whatever it is, like the airflow and the heat. Something weird. I can't remember what it is, but I was reading it. I think the Testo one, they don't want you to they just want it centrally in the room.
And that would make sense to me because from what I've always been taught is, and whenever they ask me about it, I always say, put the CO detector in your bedroom. Don't put it right beside the freaking vent of the furnace. I mean, it's probably going to get spillover when it first kicks on. Where does your heart rate slow down the most? In the bedroom. What kills you in your sleep? You know, your heart is slowed down the most. You're asleep in your bedroom. To me, that's the best place because it's going to get sucked up by the furnace. It's going to get blown throughout the whole house. So your bedroom, to me, is the best place for it. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, Corey says some are not temperature compensated. Some are not, but some are. And I think you need to just really read your manual. Don't just take it out of the box and turn it on, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I would like to have maybe a personal one, but I don't want to, you know, I'm not very often in places where it's that bad. I mean, there's some industrial places, but a lot of times I would think they provide some of that stuff, but it's not that often that I have to have something like that. Like we've got a refinery around here where those guys carry those things everywhere they go. As far as your own personal CO thing, which would be kind of nice to have, but yeah, it's not that often. Usually you can go out and find it. Like I had one, it called me out in the middle of the night once at a nursing home. The CO detector went off and the fire department came out and they found like, it was stupid low. It was like, I don't know, 5%, 5 parts per million, something like that. Well, guess what else puts off something that will false the detector off? And it may not even really be a false alarm. Battery charging circuitry. The kitchen area had a battery charger for some appliance. I don't know what it was, but that was where the CO detector was placed at. And certain gases that were put off from the battery floated up, and I forget exactly what one it was, but it went off because of that. And because it kept going off even when I finally shut the unit down, because I'm like, okay, what do I do here? The fire department says no, and I don't have my CO detector with me. I'm visually inspecting, not seeing nothing wrong. I'm seeing a possibility of something, but all right, fine. Safer than sorry. That baby's coming off. You tell me whether or not it's still here in the morning type thing. Checked all the other ones, checked, you know, everything in that remote area. Here it was a stupid battery charger. It was putting off some sort of funky, you know, chemical, whatever, and that false alarmed it. So,
I had a crazy one.
What's that?
This was probably like 10 years ago on a Train 80% furnace that we installed.
Mm-hmm.
The lady called in frantic that her carbon monoxide detectors go off in the house. They're all daisy chained together or whatever. In the middle of the day. They never go off at night, never in the morning, but in the middle of the day they go off. And it happens every single day. And so we go there. I look at the furnace, check the combustion, check the gas pressure. Everything's perfect. This thing is beautiful. And mind you, at that point, I've never seen an 80% Train heat exchanger go bad. I was like, I doubt it's the heat exchanger, you know? We checked the venting. We checked the water heater. I checked everything. I couldn't find anything in the house. So they insisted under warranty, we replaced the heat exchanger because they were convinced it was the furnace. We changed the heat exchanger. There was nothing wrong with it. No cracks. The rings were intact. There was nothing wrong with it.
And this is an in-shop burner design type, you know, fairly newer one in the last 10 years, 15 years?
In the last 25 years. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So what ended up happening was she called back and complained it was still happening. We went there again and looked at it. We couldn't figure it out. We said, I don't know what to tell you. So this is what I was talking to her, the one when we were doing it. And I noticed the garage door is connected, you know, to the house. And the door did not have a weather strip, and it was like undercut. And I told her, I'm like, you're not running the cars in the garage, are you, by any chance?
Oh,
She's like,
jeez.
no, my husband's an auto shop teacher. We're not that stupid to do something like that. A week later, I run a call like 3 houses down across the street from her house. She's got 2 cars in the garage in the wintertime, both of them running. The garage door is 3/4 of the way shut.
Nice.
Why does it happen in the middle of the day? She comes home in the middle of the day to have lunch with her husband.
So while they're eating, she's leaving the car run.
Because they don't want it to get cold, yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's nuts. Twisted Candle, good video for espresso machines. I haven't seen too many. I've been seeing a lot of different YouTube channels popping up lately. I mean, I do ice creams and stuff like that, and I've done a few different weirdo ones that are like, it might have been like a coffee thing or something, or it was some sort of, I don't know. I've done some weirdo ones. Oh, it's like a slushy thing or something like that. And a lot of times I don't record those because I'm learning as I'm going, you know, just using your principles and stuff that you've learned. So I don't know anybody off the top of my head as far as, espressos and things like that. A lot of it, thing I've noticed with what we do, I mean, it gets hot, it gets cold, whether it's an espresso machine or whether it's a gas furnace, the principles are so close that things bleed over. It's crazy.
I've worked on a coffee roaster once.
A coffee what?
Roaster?
Is that is it
It's
different?
just like it's just a gas valve, a one burner. It has an exhaust fan. And then, the beans roll around inside of it, and there's a big flame to roast the beans. That was it. And I told the guy, I'm like, I've never done this before. He's like, well, the company that installed it, they're from California. They can't have anyone out for 2 weeks, and this is my business. Can you please look at it? I'll pay you either way.
Yeah.
All right.
Heck yeah. I mean, I do some ovens. I do some conveyor ovens. I do, I used to do some microwaves here and there. When I did work at this Red Lobster at a town north of us, and, I so badly wanted to get out of just doing residential, which is why I got into generators, which is why I was trying to do some food service equipment and stuff like that. So, I mean, I work on they were willing to pay me to come up there and do it. Heck yeah, they're going to pay me to learn. Why not? And they knew it. And, our rates were a lot cheaper than some of the other companies, and they liked me. They trusted me. And I always, I kind of felt like they were my store. I mean, they personally knew me pretty well. I was always the one that came up there and stuff. And thanks, Laska. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And basically, I do whatever they needed. Like, when you let another company in the door, that's just a chance for them saying, hey, we do this too, and we do that too. We can take care of all that for you. And then you lost that customer. So, yeah, I mean, I do all kinds of little weird stuff here and there. It's just sometimes I don't necessarily know it as well as what things I do know better. So I don't usually record it. So, yeah, it's one of them things. I think you can see that with the heat pump versus say some of my reach-in coolers. I've done so many freaking reach-in coolers since being here that I just did some here and there before coming here, and now I've done so many freaking ones that there's really not much that I haven't done on it, whether it be the cap tubes or the evaporators or the condensers or changing oil or whatever. I can pretty much call it out as I'm doing it, and it sounds like I'm just putting a class together and it's just all well laid out, when it's just the fact that I've done it so many freaking times that it just comes second nature now. So that's when I ran into that call I was talking about earlier, that heat pump on that Nordyne. It's not that often I work on a Nordyne, and the Nordyne had all kinds of weird logic issues that was just so different than what I'm used to. And it sounds like it was outdated technology that they just were too lazy to change it in their boards. And I kind of wondered too if it wasn't maybe somebody that was a dealer for them and it kind of pissed them off. But especially when you're talking to almost 40,000 people seeing it, you're surely going to get somebody that either works for the company or somebody that sells the stuff. So, oh well. It is what it is, bud. So, old Curious ZZ Top there says it's definitely tough working on so many different brands and stuff. It is. It really is. It's hard to do it all, but, you get it. As long as you do them a good job, I mean, and they know what's going on. I don't know. I think it was just mainly you're getting prejudged on stuff when they really haven't had a chance. And it was somebody I'd never talked to before. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Are you judging me off of one freaking call? Have you looked at the other 120 some videos or whatever it is? It's just like your diagnostic skills, basically, you might as well just said your diagnostic skills suck. You need to start doing stuff differently. And it's like, thanks, man. I love you too. I appreciate that. Thanks. So it is like, but yet the things he called me out on, he was trying to be nice, but he's like, I've been doing this 40 some years. And I'm like, okay, great. And he's like, or the other guy was even more rude. And that was kind of like, I was going to invite him to come on here. And, it's like, okay, we can do let's see who can stump who here type thing. But I thought that's kind of conceited and he might make me look bad. So I was like, maybe that's probably not a good idea to do it. But it's like, I'm not doing these videos to try to say, hey, I'm super, super smart. My brain's so big, I have to carry it in a wagon behind me or something. It's just, I'm one of the few that's willing to share that information of what I've got just to try to help other people out. I'm doing it for free will, just to help them out. And yeah, it makes me feel popular. It makes me feel important that I'm trying to help somebody out. I'll admit to that. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the emails. I love hearing, I got an email from this kid that's getting ready to graduate this year. And he said, I've been watching your videos for quite a while. And after watching some of the other guys and stuff, I want to go into this field now. Boom. Mission accomplished, because we can't find nobody who wants to do this stuff. And it's an awesome field to be in. So that makes me feel really awesome. The $100 or $200, that don't make, you can't buy that feeling that you get. And that's the feeling I really like. You know, I had a guy message me, and I don't want to encourage this stuff, but he asked me for some information on his generator. I don't live nowhere near him. I recommended how to find a good Generac dealer, but he wanted some information for his generator. I was willing to get it for him, you know, and I'm like, hey, here you go. He just wanted some basic information. It was nothing super special, but you know, I got it for him, and here you go. You know, I'm helping somebody out. You never know. That's going to come back to you some way. I mean, it's so much bigger than just HVAC. If you can try to be nice to everybody, it's going to come back to you. I mean, that's a lot of it. So it's amazing. I mean, you never know. You never know. And that's what I love about it is you never know how it's going to come back to you later. And it just never fails. When you start doing some nice stuff for people with no strings attached, things come back to you too. So, I mean, like my sign that I got from Rich. I mean, that's a badass sign. I didn't ask for it. He made that thing. And granted, I don't remember if my kids solicited it or what, but that's an awesome sign, you know. And my kids were supposed to send you a freaking gift card, and I'm still hounding them on it because they haven't got around to it yet. So it's coming eventually. I've been on their butts pretty bad. So, but yeah, it's you know, good things come back. I mean, they definitely come back, and I don't know. It's the whole reason why I do these things. Honestly, these live streams, they don't usually get a lot of views, but I do them to kind of build a relationship with my viewers, just like I try to build a relationship with my customers. And, you know, it gives me a chance too, because I can't really spend a lot of time talking on the videos. Otherwise, I'm going to have people upset that I'm screwing around too much with them. So that's the other reason behind it too. So I'm in 94. What's that? I'm only here for the pugs. Yeah, dude, they're upstairs, man. She bailed on me. I don't know what she's doing. She's probably sleeping by now. It's hard to say. But I don't know. Has she been on there lately? I haven't even seen. So she's probably laying in bed watching this stuff, just kind of saying, God, does he ever shut up? So, yeah, it is what it is. So what's going on otherwise, man? Help me out here. Throw me a bone. Give me a subject matter.
I don't know.
Any new
I bought
tools?
a blower door.
A who? A blower door?
Yeah.
I think I remember them talking about that.
I didn't get it yet. I'm excited for it. So we'll see.
Our utility companies around here do that test and stuff. I think they charge like $200 for it or something like that. Now, granted, that's a co-op, which I'm on a co-op, and the company that I do a lot of work for is another co-op, all off the same thing. And you know, I've thought about seeing if I could get him to come on here with me and maybe talk about, you know, those sort of things, because that's what his job is. And, you know, he didn't really know nothing about HVAC, but he does all that stuff that's included with doing the blower door tests and all those sort of things. So kind of curious, you know, what exactly they would find on mine. I mean, a thermal imager tells you a lot of crap, which is kind of surprising. But
I just think it's so cool, like watching. I don't know if you've followed HVAC 2.0 with Nate Adams.
I've heard you guys talking about him, and you know, everybody kind of getting controversial over they can go smaller or bigger or whatever, but I didn't get real deep into it. So I don't know.
It's fascinating to watch them, like, you know, with a manual J load calc, and then with a load calc with a blower door, and actually input the amount of leakage that you have in your house. And then they take your average gas bill, and they figure out what your winter gas bill is versus your average summer gas bill, right? If you're on natural gas or electric, and then they'll enter that into the load to figure out what your energy usage is, and that's how they can come out with a super accurate load calculation. Like, they really dial it in tight, you know.
Are they basing this off a static pressure differential between the outside and the inside, or how are they doing it?
Yeah, so it's 50 pascals. They run the blower door at 50 pascals, and they see what your leakage is at 50 pascals. So
so they're doing one on the outside, one on the inside, and seeing it from that.
With a manometer, yeah. Well, he had the retro. I went to Bill's house. We did it at Bill's house. He had the smart cloth one where you don't have to throw it outside. You just hook it up to the blower door, and it's like I don't know how they do it. It's got to be a tube that goes outside or whatever. But anyway, I think Bill's is like 5,200 or 5,300, something like that. CFM. That was
What's
leaking.
the normal?
I mean, there is really no normal, but he was saying basically like um, a house that is 60, 70 years old, figure whatever average, this is just ballpark, would be whatever the square footage is, would be times 3. That's your CFM leakage. And then if it's a house like 30 years old, it would be square footage times 2. And like now, recent builds, you would see something that's halfway decent would be your square footage divided by half or a quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had one guy ask there as far as average apprentice pay and stuff like that. I would say it's pretty accurate right there. What Bo, hopefully that's Bo. It looks like Bo Hanger said 16-ish area. I've heard anywhere from that range there to even $19 an hour for people that just are bodies walking around carrying stuff, which it's amazing how much things have changed in just the 6 years lately that I've been here. I mean, things have changed so much. It's crazy. And it just really depends on how many people you got available. For us, we can't hardly find anybody. And, you know, where we're located at, we have a good good batch of people to pick from, and yet we still can't find a lot. So, I mean, yeah, it's a crazy thing.
and this Irish general contractor I do a lot of work for,
Mm-hmm.
I was complaining that I could never find anyone to hire. He's like, well, what are you paying him? I'm like, you got to pay him good or you can't get anyone. He's like, tell me about it. He's like, you can't. And this is what I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he said, you can't get a bungalow for $20 an hour. I said, what's a bungalow? He's like, you know, like a house, a bungalow. He's like, looks good from the front, but you got nothing upstairs.
Thanks, JD. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, if you know, this is what my old boss told me. He goes, whether I pay you $20 an hour or if I pay you $45 an hour, eventually the $45 an hour ain't even going to be enough. He goes, you know, and of course, if you're down on the low end of the scale and stuff, you're gonna be like, yeah, bull crap, you know. But honestly, as you start becoming more successful and start getting paid better for it, either you want to do a good job or you don't, and it's either in you or it's not. And so if it's purely for the money, you're only going to hold that up for so long, and then eventually you're just not going to care, and then your work's going to reflect it. So you gotta love what you're doing. You gotta like what you're doing. If not, you're gonna have a horrible life. I mean, this is a long time to work to not like what you're doing. So
It's true.
it is. I convinced myself I love what I'm doing. I love it more when I came here. Now, as I've been doing it for longer and longer, I'm kind of getting tired of, you know, the coolers and stuff. I'm kind of like wanting to get into some bigger things, which I know is going to be more stress on me because, you know, like the supermarket stuff. I know where a lot more things are at. I'm starting to become more familiarized with some different things. It's not as fascinating, you know, not as mystical no more. But, you know, like I get thrown onto a big industrial one that I've never been there before. That kind of sucks. And it's kind of like, ah, shit, I don't want to call nobody to help right away. I'm going to try to give it my best first. And sure enough, usually if it's something stupid and you get it, but, you know, there's got to be, you know, it sucks sometimes trying to learn new stuff because it's stressful.
It is scary when you walk into something you've never worked on before. You kind of feel like deer in headlights. You're like, where do I even begin here? You know.
Or I'll ask them. Like I went to this one place is state of the art. They literally take high pressure water. We're talking 50,000 pounds, or it was maybe it was 150,000 pounds of pressure, and they literally put it on food in packages and compress this food with that much pounds of pressure of water, and that will kill the bacteria and stuff that's inside the food without having to heat it up. And we maintain a chiller for them that cools the water for the machine, for the compressors. The compressors generate so much heat, the chiller's there just to cool the compressors because you have such a compression ratio that there's a lot of heat. They lost power, ended up being a 3-phase protector or whatever, shut down one of the circulator pumps. Not a big deal. But, you know, at first I'm like, it was an aqua snap boiler, and I was like, crap. You know what? Screw it. This ain't going to be a danger zone. I'm going to go try it first before I call anybody. And sure as crap, you know, it took me about 20-some minutes. And, you know, and I was like, hey, how does this work? What's the normal procedure, operating procedures? Because once you learn that, boom, you're good to go. Refrigeration TV, I think racks are easier than commercial refrigeration. Dude, That's because somehow you got somebody to take you out on that stuff. And if you see my racks, they're horrible. We're just finally getting those Johnson controls or whatever on there. I literally had Comtrol on some of these racks. We just finally, I think, got our last Comtrol unit out. Half of the panels didn't work, so you had to go around to a computer that was from like, might as well be a Commodore 88 or something, and try to log into it and try to pull things up and do some freaking measurements and stuff. It was like, it's nuts. Finally, they finally got it converted over here just this last month. So when I go and call next month, and luckily this one was closer to me. It's only like probably a half hour away or 20 minutes away. It's gonna be a lot better, but it's just really, it comes down to anything. Everything's easy when you know what you're doing. I mean, brain surgery is easy when you know what you're doing. So, I mean, everything's easy when you've been doing it. So, I mean, but I don't want to be on something that's so easy all the time either. I like getting challenged. As much as I hate the stress of it, I love the satisfaction that, hey, I can add this to another one of my things I can do. Yeah. Craziness, I know, just crazy. Can't be happy one way or the other. Alaska, oh, daddy, show me your big rack. You're crazy, man. You're nuts, but can't be bought. I don't know. I can be satisfied with some extra money here and there. There's nothing wrong with that. But honestly, being treated good, and luckily I'm treated pretty good where I work at, that the money is not, I mean, I'm paid well, but being treated good is why people stay at my company that I'm at. We've got people there 35 years and longer. So where I've worked at before, you're lucky sometimes they stay a couple years. So I can't complain a bit. I've got it made. What else we got going on here? Yeah. See, I did the flat rate dirty washer. I did not like it. Now, I converted our flat rate to basically hourly. And in our area, flat rate was so badly... I mean, when they went for it, they went for it. I mean, it was blow your eye sockets out the back of your head type prices. I'm starting to lock up a little bit there. There we go. We're back to normal. I can always see my meter start slowing down, and it's like, what's going on? It's like the internet take a dump or something. So flat rate around here is like a dirty word. So yeah. You hourly, are you, Adam?
Yeah.
Or are you flat rate? Hourly?
I mean, I tried to do flat rate. I need to come up with a better program to do.
Because I mean, in reality, a quote isn't nothing but more than flat rate. I mean, you're estimating what it's going to take you to do it, and you're figuring out what your cost is and what you want to make. So I mean, it's just some of these flat rate things. What I didn't like about it was either you have to make it so slanted to cover all the potential things that could go wrong that you didn't figure out was going to be covered in that price, which is what I didn't like. Because, you know, it's like, okay, we had to do one repair before we could find out what else was wrong. So say you got a bad compressor, you quote the compressor, but then you find out that the capillary tube's plugged up, or the TXV's bad, or you got something else wrong, or whatever. You know, that's where flat rate would suck, but you'd have to put in the stipulations that, well, this is just to get us to this point, then there might be more. And it's like, well, then what was the point of that?
Well, and one thing that I noticed too with flat rate is some of the prices are so, it just seems like crazy high pricing. You know?
Yeah, let me rape you so bad that even if things go wrong, I'm covered. So it's not a big deal.
Right.
But I'm in a smaller town. I mean, that kind of crap goes around fast, and then before you know it, you're not trusted. So
well, and you look at what they say the normal national average for this repair should take.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, something stupid, like, I don't know, a flame sensor. They'll say usually an hour or something stupid. It's like, what? You know, or a gas valve. They'll say 2 hours or something. It's like, I could do this blindfolded in less than 2 hours.
I can go pick the part up and put it in for that. And I tweaked mine, Parts Plus, or what was it? It was I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Basically, I modified this flat rate to where because I don't want to take advantage of nobody. At that time we were charging like $50 an hour, $55 an hour, plus a trip charge of like $55. So $55 to pull in the driveway, and then $50 some an hour. And this was 6 years ago. And our area is cheaper. I mean, granted, like I've told people before in the past, a $200,000 house here is going to be $700,000 or $800,000 in your area in Chicago or somewhere bigger. I mean, it's just we have a very low cost of living where we're at, so you don't need to make $1 million to live very well. So the way that this thing was priced, it was just crazy. And so I had to go through and try to modify it. And that was more work than what it was worth. And I was literally throwing in the actual prices of boards and stuff. And I had one for each particular board, whereas the flat rate price was like premium board, super premium, or basic board. And it was like, okay, it's a freaking Honeywell Universal Hot Surface Igniter control board, you know, which you don't see anymore. But, you know, I had to have different ones because, you know, one board for a Carrier might be $400 our cost, and then the other one might be, you know, $150. How do you charge $700 for both of them? It ain't fair. It ain't right. Somebody else comes in, you know.
A Goodman residential board could be $60.
Yeah, exactly. That's a whole nother thing where everybody can get into a big old uproar and discussion about flat rate. I understand there's some areas where everything's more expensive and you got to pay for parking and you got to pay for this and that and all this other crazy crap that we don't deal with. I can see why they have to do it. I mean, that's a whole nother subject ball game in itself. So hopefully going over some of these heat pump things that I did may have gotten some of those questions, because it was none of these people in here generally that say any of these things, which is fine. I have no way to be able to prove myself once the thing is over. And I understand you can't let anything really bother you much. And probably the best thing to do is just not respond, but that's not me. I like to, so, but yeah. What else we got going on here? Are you guys slowing down much here this time of year?
Yeah, we're definitely slower. I still have a lot of stuff going on, but
I mean, we're doing good, but this usually is our worst time of the year for us. But see, I'm already getting ready to start ice cream machines again. So here, I've got literally 2 ice cream places opening up, I think, either this weekend or was beginning of next weekend. I think they're trying to make money early because of, you know, the way things were. But at the beginning of the season, ice cream was booming because when everything was horrible, ice cream brings you some happiness, some cheap happiness when you can't go nowhere, can't do nothing. You know, an ice cream cone, believe it or not, makes up for all, you know, makes life better for that time that you're eating it. And those guys were doing like 30% more business because of the crap that was going on last year, which obviously is still potentially going on now. But yeah, that's why I think a lot of them, because I had one that I had to get ready for him, and I was going to dump the compressor oil because I couldn't get the microns down below, I think, 1600 originally. And I just thought, screw it, I'm not going to waste all day trying to pull a good vacuum on it. I'm just going to dump the oil because I know that's what it is. It's absorbed the moisture, and just put new oil in it and then new dryer and move on. And so I had to do that on Friday so he can get his machine back. But yeah. JD, a lot of us will do like a not to exceed if we want to try to give some leeway, not to exceed X amount of dollars, but not very often do we do that. We usually... most everything we do is pretty well quoted. I'll guess how many hours it's going to be. They take our hourly rate, take our markup, boom, there's the price. And then if you can get done quicker than that, great, you got the extra money. And if not, you know, then you lost money. So it's not rocket science. So, and we get paid for travel too. Yeah, not a big deal there on that. So, anything else you want to cover, Adam? I don't want to keep you on here if your back's like ready to blow out.
yeah, I'll probably be expiring soon. I keep resetting this. It has like a 10-minute limit on it.
Plug that sucker into the wall. Yeah. We got 94 viewers. If you guys would hit that thumbs up button. I think this was a pretty decent stream tonight. I think we covered a lot of crap pretty relatively quickly. I know I've gained a lot of subscribers here in just this freaking, this month alone was 800 and some subscribers, which for me, I'm smaller, you know. I'm different than some of the other guys. I don't put a lot of music in there. I don't do a lot of photography and stuff like that. So I know that doesn't get it. So, but I try to go with just, you know, doing me. So, yeah. But that was the thing I wanted to cover with some of the heat pump stuff. I didn't know if there was anything else you guys wanted to ask anything on that. I know we covered the furnaces as far as exhaust stacks and stuff like that. Let's see, what else was there? Because those are my 2 ones. I had the Carrier with the ductwork that went to crap up there, and basically my temperature rise was great. Those were core thermostat, which Carrier hired that company to make them for them specifically, which I don't know if they sell them on the the raw market under anybody else's name, but it's a decent little thermostat. It's got Wi-Fi on it. Whether I've got one, you can program it time or temperature differentials with all kinds of flexibility when it goes in the second stage. Same thing with your third and fourth stages, because it is capable of doing 4 stages of heat, Y1, Y2, W1, W2. And then it's controlled by the internet for its temperature and stuff. So those were some things that could have went over a little bit more about, but that's a whole nother thing in itself too. What else do we got here? I know schematics. A lot of people complain when I put the music in there. Even if I put it low, people didn't like it. What I try to do to save you some of it is chop. And that's, I can take an hour video and cut it down to the 15 minutes that you see. That video could easily been longer than that. And I try to make it so that, but then again, sometimes to my detriment, it makes it too quickly or go too quick. So, what else do we got here? If we got anybody in particular, cost my company $600 a dollar. Fire me, yeah. So, yeah, there's all kinds of good content I noticed out there lately. I've been kind of checking out some of the other channels and stuff. There's been a lot of different people popping up and stuff out of the woodwork and things like that, which is kind of cool.
I like that Mikey Pipes.
That's who I was thinking about. He's kind of cool. Is he from Chicago or he's from up northeast?
I think the East Coast somewhere.
Yeah, because he kind of got that personality up there. You got forget about it. You don't like it yourself, So, yeah, I love his logo. I think it's kind of cool. It was pretty ingenious putting the pipe wrench in the middle of the paramedic icon. I thought that was pretty cool there and stuff. So, and he's growing really fast. He's already just about ready to hit. He's at 11,000 now. Seemed to probably hit 12. So he's already gaining on me big time. Which we do different stuff. He does a lot of plumbing and stuff, and I don't. And personality, I think personality is a lot of it. I don't always click with everybody. That is what it is. So,
I think there's a lot of customers. I'm gonna watch today.
He what?
The customer found him from YouTube. That Mikey Pipes.
The customers?
So I think he has a lot of customers that subscribe to him too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, I haven't had too many. I had one customer. I was at his house, and he was a total computer guy. I walk in there, and he had freaking about 10 video cards up on his shelf. And they had a couple, I would almost call them supercomputers. These things look like, that big Bosch radio? This computer looked like a Bosch radio, but it had towers on the left-hand corners. It looked like something you could probably throw it down the stairs and it would be all right. And he had he looked like central command station here at his desk. And he worked from home because he does review channels. And he might be watching me right now because I went ahead and told him who I was. But when I went down to work at his furnace, he had a freaking rack behind me, a literal freaking computer rack. You hear this, all the freaking motors are going, balls to the wall. He has freaking 4 big-ass power supply system battery backups in there and stuff. He had fiber optics running throughout the house. He had all of his camera systems going everywhere. He had not CNC. Well, yeah, I think he did have a CNC, but he also had that plastic printing deal where they could print whatever it is you want to print. And we clicked pretty good and stuff, and I was answering some of his questions and stuff, which I kind of like those kind of customers because they really seem to embrace the new technologies and stuff. But what was weird is he was having a click, or he didn't even really say a click, he said a noise, which is very broad. And so I went down there, started tapping on ductwork, this, and that, turning things on and off, and finally, boom, the solenoid on the humidifier was the click, and it was transferring, the water hammering was transferring into the ductwork. And so I had to turn down the supply pressure a little bit so that it still came through, but not at the crazy pressure that the city must have been providing it at. And he's like, well, if I put a shock absorber on there or whatever, would that get rid of it? And I'm like, might. I said, it's not that common that I have it, but that, it was kind of interesting that we had that conversation and stuff. And he had a really nice infinity system and stuff. It was kind of an interesting thing. So, but yeah.
It's funny that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
A lot of the humidifiers are actually louder than furnaces these days.
Yeah. I put in I usually, for the longest time, used bypass humidifiers, and for like my in-laws, I used a power humidifier, just where it recirculates on itself with a little fan motor. And those are kind of neat, but man, it sure adds a little extra money to the cost of it, though. I've done a couple steam. I don't necessarily like those because of all the calcium issues. We have a lot of calcium in the water around here. What else we got going on?
Have you tried the April Air steam?
No, this was a Honeywell that I'd done. And granted, time has passed, so it's, I think that one's been replaced with something else. It was that weirdo one that had like a...
True steam?
Yeah, maybe. It had like a weird little piggy looking thing, and you open it up and it popped up.
Those sucked. The new
I
ones.
thought it didn't go so well. It was being used in a commercial building. It was like a woodworking place, and so they had a lot of oak. They were a milling place for like wood and cabinets and stuff. So they put some high end big oak trim in, oak doors. I mean, they built the crap themselves. So the oak was all over the place, and they were starting to have cracking and stuff. So that was why they wanted the steam humidifier, because they just weren't getting enough out of a normal humidifier, which was kind of interesting and stuff. But you guys, if you would, smack that like button if you would. I appreciate that. If you guys got any questions that we may not have covered or anything, you got my email, which is hvacsurvival@gmail. You can always or hvacrsurvival@gmail. Don't forget the R. It won't get here otherwise. Or it'll be down in the comment section down below for the email and stuff, which Streamlabs just threw that out there. I wonder if they're listening to me, or it just does it every now and again. That's craziness. I think it's programmed just doing all kinds of craziness. So you guys are growing big time, Adam. You got 7,000, 8,000 subscribers right now on your Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm constantly getting crap tons of people.
I know. That's why I told you the last time. You're like, I'm making sure these people are legit joining. I'm like, I wouldn't even worry about it. There's too many people coming through.
As soon as you said that, now like on mine, I asked a couple questions and I put in there, if you don't answer this, I'm not approving you. I don't want a bunch of assholes in the group. I mean, if you want to be an asshole somewhere else, go be an asshole somewhere else. And and honestly, I've only been advertising anymore on Overtime and in my own. It's like it didn't benefit me none to try a couple of the other ones. So it's like, and then some of the bad apples that you pick up, it's just not worth it. So it's like, I want like-minded people to kind of conglomerate around together, I guess you could say it, or something. So
we pretty much let anyone in, even though we have questions, but we're very quick to kick you out.
Yeah, I found a couple that were homeowners. I said something to Joe, and he's like, yeah, bounce them. Boom, gone. So it's like, I have no problem helping out with simple stuff, but if it's just purely to avoid having to do whatever, no. And it can be weeded out pretty quick. It's not trying to be an asshole, but I mean, we do put a lot of time into building our trade and our skills and stuff. So, there's got to be a line there, or some of the other dumb stuff that they want to do. So, hey Samuel, what's going on, buddy? I haven't seen you for a little while. Cool. Haven't had a chance to look through a lot of the chat and stuff. If you guys have asked me a question, if you would do it all in caps. If not, I haven't seen it. I pretty much had to ignore it for the first, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. That's where Laura comes in real handy for catching that stuff. Otherwise, I can't do two things at once. So, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen her for a while. She must be like in bed or something. Yeah. But yeah, man, if you want to get out of here, I can get you out of here and we'll wrap this thing up. I think we're right at an hour and 36 minutes, which I think is pretty good. I think we gave them their money's worth tonight.
Sounds good to me.
I appreciate you coming in.
Pad.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I'm going to lay on the heating pad for a while.
I got a heated blanket, man. I got that for like our Christmas swap exchange or whatever.
Yeah.
I never would have in a million years would have figured, I mean, she got it on sale for like $20. My sister did, because that was like what we were going to spend for something stupid. I love that thing, man. I put that thing on. It's good for about 3 hours. That just keeps everything all toasty. I would have never thought I could get so much joy out of a $20 or $30 blanket. It's like the little things in life just are so great.
I mean, I'm always cold, so I would say that would be a good buy, right?
And I'm cheap. I mean, I turn it down to 68 at night. I'm 70 during the day. And, the average is 33 to 42% for my humidity. And I checked the wattage on it, and on high, I think it does 130 or 180 watt. So I mean, it's not crap. And I literally put, I got my sheet, I got the heating blanket, then I got my comforter on top, which it's like works out great. So that's one of my little. I kind of excited sometimes to go to bed because I usually don't want to go to bed until like midnight or something because otherwise I wake up too freaking early and then I'm tired because I woke up and I'm staring at the clock. And then if I'm really dumb, I'll look at my Facebook or look at YouTube, and next thing I know, now I'm starting to read through it. And an hour and a half has passed, and now it's like, okay, it's 5. I need to get up by 6:30ish area. So I'm like, yeah, that's a bad idea. I try not to do nothing with the phone at that point. So there we go. Weaver Maintenance. Rick, what drilling company do you use for vertical geothermal systems install? We only do horizontal. There's a vertical place through our dealership for Carrier that they can do vertical. And they're based out, the truck, I believe, if they still have it, was down in Cincinnati, Ohio, which, is about 2.5 hours from me to 3-ish area. So I don't think we've done it very often. Like I said, most of the people I'm working on have several acres for their property. So, like me, I got 3.25 acres at my house. So, I could easily do it at mine. But because I had a chance to get a geothermal. It was like a scratch and dent. I could have got it for like less than $1,000. So I was half tempted to do it. I've been wanting to actually build, there's a company in our area, and I don't know if they're one of the few, but they literally do a waterless geothermal. Do you have any of those around your area, Adam?
Waterless geothermal.
They take the refrigerant lines and literally put them out in the yard.
Oh, I think you were telling me about that. Yeah.
Supposedly it's more efficient than water. I don't know if they are buying it from somebody or if they literally build it themselves. I'm half tempted to kind of get a hold of them and see, hey, what would you charge me to put this in? As horrible as that sounds, it's supposed to be super efficient. From what I was told from my previous company's sales guy, that he couldn't compete with our geothermal, which, the same thing I sell here at this company, could not compete with that system. These guys were supposedly getting stupid, crazy electric bills for $40. And it's like, huh? And in our area, I think a kilowatt hour is 11 cents. So, night, JD, or is it Bill? Yeah, it said night to Bill. My bad. Cool. My bad. Okay, yeah, it was Bill. The curious ZZ Top dude's going to bed. Night, night, Bill. Be careful out there. Dangerous Michigan. But yeah, it's just, wells are the only way. Trench is not good transfer. I don't know. It does pretty good. We usually go, I think, between 4 foot and 6 feet, and I think we'll usually do 1 or 2 passes through. I haven't really watched the guys do it lately. It does pretty good. Even this weather here where we're running really cold, the loops are staying somewhere in the high 20s. Well, I should say we're in the mid 30s, and the outgoing side after extraction, we're in the mid to high 20s, which kind of sucks. You can tell you're losing that 35-degree temperature rise out of the heat pump, and it's going down to maybe 20, but still it's better than an air-to-air system. So uses us here in my hometown. 150 foot each per ton. I don't know. So yeah, we're getting sidetracked there, but yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this turd up, man, and flush it. I definitely appreciate you coming in here. I haven't had a chance to talk to you for a while, so I definitely appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I always have fun stuff, bouncing stuff off of you and things like that. I don't know where my toilet flush went. God darn it. This is where she was good for that stuff. There we go. We'll wrap this thing up and flush it. It just kills the momentum, It's just not as funny when you have to go searching for crap like that. But yeah, if you want, man, I'll end this thing here and we'll call it.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, guys, don't forget to check out the HVAC Overtime. I'm sure if you're in here with me, you definitely would know them and stuff. So other than that, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come in here, and hopefully that answers some of the questions and stuff. And maybe it opened up, better information between the viewer and the ones that maybe don't necessarily come in here. Hopefully it was useful to them and stuff. And so we're going to go ahead and roll this thing down the hill, man. So, guys, thanks for coming in. Thank you for the super chats. If you haven't subscribed, if you would, please subscribe. Do notification custom. That way, at least it won't bombard you with it, but you'll at least get them. And don't forget to smack your thumb on the way out there, guys. So till next time, later.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I want to see motion, movement. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay?
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.